Hello, good afternoon. I've got Sam Kotadia with me today. He's a chartered sports psychologist and very excitingly working with Wrexham FC at the minute. So I'm sure he's looking for a Hollywood contract soon, Sam. But he's got 18 years of sports science experience. I thought it'd be brilliant for Sam to share some of his experience and knowledge with directors of sport to see how that would be useful. So, Sam, many thanks for coming on. Um,
No problem at all. I'd like to start by perhaps challenging our whole understanding of psychology. I was trained formally with this idea that we can somehow engineer our students or our professional footballers or athletes into a positive state of mind. So the first point I want to explore is how I've kind of gone full circle and moved away from that idea. And the first thing to share is this idea of addition through subtraction. So if I'm a sporting director, a great principle that can be shared with your teams of coaches when they're coaching pupils is do not try to intervene and try and engineer a positive state of mind. That actually adds more cognitive load to the mind. And actually just talk about the sport, talk about the technicalities and the processes and the key actions, and leave the mind alone, leave the conversation around getting in the right headspace alone. We all know that when we try and tell people to stay calm, actually, we create the opposite effect. Actually, it makes things worse. So, in spaces of high times of high pressure, and when we can see heads are going down, just hold the space as opposed to intervening with techniques, strategies, mindsets, clever games actually kind of reinforces the idea of how I'm feeling is somehow wrong,
mhm.
and I shouldn't be feeling how I'm feeling. And the other point that a director could share with their teams, as well as coaches below the sporting director, is that there is no relationship between how we feel and how we perform. And you can validate that when you ask a performer, "Have you ever played well when you felt rubbish and it's gone okay?" Versus, "Have you ever played really badly and felt on top of the world, really confident, felt like it's going to go really well, and actually the opposite has happened?" There is no relationship between the two. Now, by understanding that, we relieve the mind because we stop playing these games of trying to get ourselves in the right headspace. If we keep trying to get ourselves in the right headspace, we gas, we put more on the mind, we overload it, and yeah, then we struggle. And a third point is our understanding of the zone. Like, it's great if I'm a sporting director to help educate my staff around this understanding. It's not a destination. It's not something you can go off and do. It's actually something that happens when we stop looking for it. Um, if you ask your performers, and this could be a good exercise to do if I'm a coach, or anyone in within your team who's performing, what happens when I'm in the zone? Well, you'll get accounts of timelessness, selflessness, and like everything's in slow motion. There is no willpower. There is no, "Oh yeah, I fought really hard today in my head and got things right." Actually, there was a letting go. There was an immediate sense of flow and space that showed up.
Yeah, that's really interesting, isn't it? And ironic in a way that the more we relax and say less, the better our teams are going to play. And I think for a lot of coaches, particularly of children, we feel almost we have to justify our existence, let's say to parents or whatever, by shouting instructions on the touchline. And we've all heard someone say, "Oh, relax, calm down, concentrate." But actually, those things have no meaning, do they? So what would you suggest either before the game or in the week before or during the game? What sort of things can we do or should we be doing to improve our pupils' performances?
The number one thing is to keep the message about the art and the technical instructions. the key actions. That, number two, try to keep information at a minimum, because if you're just about to go and perform, the mind wants to be in the here and now, in the senses. Number three, I think a lot of coaches often get too focused on what they say
Mm.
instead of how they say it.
Yeah.
So if I'm holding the silence and I'm saying nothing in that dressing room, I'm creating stability and resilience because I'm naturally allowing the mind to settle. And that will invite a sense of acceptance and peace around what's arising without needing to intervene. If we consistently do those three things, you'll get improved results. I'd also add, this is more of a kind of a coach reflection. Again, perfect for coaches and directors. When we really want to drive performance in our teams, often we can share that need from a place of tension and anxiety.
Yeah.
So always, always let the dust settle and let the noise settle in our own space before we intervene. If we're fuming because something hasn't gone well in a particular performance, just hold the space, let your own mind settle, and then you'll be ready to sort of communicate from a place of clarity as opposed to kind of rabbit in the headlights.
Yeah.
I've got to escape this feeling. We got to start feeling more positive. Normalize it. Um, you could also say, that the coach language around acceptance and saying that it's okay to feel tense. It's okay to feel nervous. It's well, however you're feeling, it's okay. There's a normalization there. Just let everything be as it is without resisting it or trying to be somewhere else. Just be aware of what's showing up.
So let's say, for instance, you're working as a sports psychologist in a team.
Yeah.
What do you do to help the coaches? So let's say I'm a director of sport and I might have a head of netball, a head of football, a head of rugby, a team of coaches underneath me. How do you work with those coaches to help them get the best out of themselves as well as getting the best out of their players, if that makes sense?
It's all about culture, and again, it's really like emphasizing the importance of simplicity. It's so easy in my industry to get really complex with the latest theories and techniques. We're kind of walking coaches back to simple delivery. Let your craft as a coach take center stage, and don't worry about the mind. So really a lot of my work is just helping coaches when our programming and conditioning is that when a player's feeling upset, that we want to go in and make them feel better. So my job is to almost help that coach put the handbrake on, or really just help settle things. And although it sort of feels uncomfortable, it's like, yeah, but Sam, we're
Yeah.
not playing well. I need to, you
Yeah.
know, uh, you know, put a rocket up there, and
Yeah. Agreed.
you know, but that brings more tension. That energy and that enthusiasm show up when we don't go looking for it, and that does require a certain amount of trust. So my
Yeah.
work with professional sports clubs, even sporting directors in your audience, is to try and instill that trust in this philosophy, because it
Mm.
really does work. That freedom, that energy, that confidence, they show up when we don't try and engineer them. Because again, if I'm trying to engineer that in the dressing room, then I'm telling everybody that they don't have it, that they're missing it, that they've got to go out and find it.
Yeah.
This philosophy is saying it's already present. And I think, when I first spoke to you, Chris, I think what struck me, which is so interesting, is that a lot of people are reluctant, and players are, to explore sports psychology, to go on
Mm.
the positive psychology seminars, to hear motivation. They don't want to do it, and they're right to not want to do it, because I think deep down they know that approach doesn't work, or it's short-lived. So there's real insight in that, and I'm hoping that people, your audience listening to this, is like there are simple ways to build this high performing culture without needing to intervene and apply common sense. And that is really you know, highly impactful. Addition through subtraction. You
Yeah,
know, that you look at the positive psychology industry, there's always a new book, there's always a new approach. Now, if one of these ways worked, we that would be it. We just
yeah.
follow
The silver bullet. Yeah,
follow that method. But ultimately, I think, you know, to summarize, if you're trying to build high performing cultures, bring in principles of the mind. You know, and I share a lot with high performing cultures that help coaches and players and schools and spaces educate around how the mind works. And then through that awareness, the performance takes care of itself and allows coaches to do what they do best and focus on their sport without needing any buy
yeah.
into mental skills training and all of that. To be honest, um, you know, being blunt, I don't think that that approach works, and I think intuitively a lot of us feel that.
Thank you, Sam. It's interesting because in our conference last week, I heard that the score takes care of itself a lot. And I think we just maybe need to trust ourselves and our players a little bit more to work out their own ways, don't we? But I really appreciate that. And I'm sure our members will appreciate your time and listen to that. So thank you very much.